All right, this is episode 2. Um, if you're wondering why I'm here in a single viewport and why things look the way they do, you might want to watch episode 1. That shows you how to set up your entire user interface to look a lot more like this one here. Things are a little more optimized this way. It's this preference. You can take and choose what you want from that episode, but there are some good things to be found there. So, all right, episode 2 here. I'm going to cover a few things that are normally an issue for people understanding how to create some objects and controlling the viewport. Um, so we'll just jump right in with creating objects and understanding uh, about the different phases, the creation phase and the modify phase and all that, just so you can understand how Max works in that respect. So when you first open things up and you've went through your save process, you've set up your project folder like we did before. I'm not going to do that for this one, but you're ready to create something. So um, you always need a flat gridded area or an orthographic view to create your models in. If you're ever in perspective view, but yet you're side on, and you try to create something like, say, a box, you're going to get some weird results like this, and it's not going to be where you expected it to be, and that is not what you're looking for. So you can look at, let's say, a top-down view here, and we'll create, a box anywhere you want to. So when you click, you're going to start here at the corner, and you're going to drag. You can drag in any direction, and you get that 2D footprint. And at the time that you're creating this footprint, you're also creating where you see that little indicator there in the center. You're setting its pivot. So you can just drag this around and you get any shape that you want to, any kind of rectangle or whatever. But if you were to hold Control, you're going to see that the box snaps to where you first clicked, and that becomes its pivot point. And it's going to grow. It's going to stay locked in proportions so that you get a square, and it's going to grow to whatever size you wish. So once you got that where you like, you can let go, and of course I did that wrong. Let me just start back over again. So I let go while still holding Control. And then the second phase here is to create the height. So you've created a footprint, you've created the height. Alright, so you're in creation mode. You can see these boxes over here at the side have some control over that. And here's where you can set these things independently and move them on your own, and you can create segments and all that good stuff. But a lot of people run into this problem. This is an issue for a lot of people. If you were to click again somewhere, like say you've changed your tool here, you can see that those have all disappeared. We still got the box highlighted, but I can't edit anything. That's because you've created all 3 dimensions of your object, and you no longer, since the box is, was at some point was deselected, you have no option here to change it through those points. You're going to move over to the next tab, and in that next tab you'll see everything reappears, and since we have the box selected, you can drag this stuff around. So I'll show you here in the I'm going to go to an orthographic view. This view cube is a quick way to kind of zoom around to different sides. You can use little arrows here on the side. You can click on arrow to get to the face. You can click on the side to get to a corner view. And it kind of, I don't use this a whole lot, but I do use it some. So if I want to get back to a top view, go like this here. But you can see we're in a top view. And as I drag the viewport around here, you can see, I can start to see the sides. That means we're still in a perspective view. So if you hit U on the keyboard, we're going to be in a perfectly orthographic view. Okay, so orthographic simply means that there's no perspective. I can move this as far as I want in any direction. I'm not going to see any other side but this top plane. As soon as I hit the P key and I'm in perspective, not only because the grid changes, but you can see you can actually get perspective on the box. That stuff comes in useful as you start to model. When you're starting to trace against an image, you want to be an orthographic view, so perspective doesn't skew that image at all. So knowing the difference between those views is good. Also, when in an orthographic mode, if we go our view, we go back to creating a box again. You can see we can create a box in this view, and this time we're going to be setting the height and the width first, or length, I'm sorry. And you can see now this places it much more where you would expect. You're right on the center line from this view. If we click into the front view and I create an object, you can see that's going to be directly on that line there. So now we have several objects out. Let's look at my notes here. So okay, so now we're here in the we got our boxes created. I've showed you how to adjust their sizes. Until they've been switched into what's called an editable poly, you're still going to be able to reselect them and find their attributes here in this tab that you can still change and still add segments to, which may be helpful in whatever you're doing. But then they move into another phase, which is a full editable phase, where you can get to the sub-objects, and the sub-objects are made up of the vertex, which I'll show you on this one here. The vertex, which is any point where your edges come together, when they merge together at a point, that's called a vertex. And when you're in a sub-object mode, you'll see that these manipulate tools will manipulate those for you in any direction that you wish. You can make a multiple selection here, and you could rotate that selection. You can see I'm not affecting the entire object. I'm just selecting I'm just affecting what's selected in the sub-object level. Edges would be any one of these lines between two vertices. So you can see that your selection stops there when it reaches a vertice. This one's a little harder to understand. The border tool. The border tool will find holes. So there's a hole that we've made in the side, and as soon as you click on any edge on that, it'll find the entire thing. So these are sub-objects. I'm not going to go too deep into that because that's not really what I'm trying to cover today. All right, we covered that manipulation, or how to manipulate these sub-objects. Same thing holds true when not selected in any of these. When we're deselected and we're just in an object, now these same manipulate tools are going to work on the entire object. Okay. And this is your coordinate system down here at the bottom, and you'll see that that they reflect where they are in the world space. The world space, this point here, this very center point, is 0, 0, 0. So it's 0 in the X, Y, and Z. That's what you'd call world center. So these would be your world coordinates, and at any time you can reach down here and they'll correspond to that tool that's actually selected. So I can rotate. I thought you could do this. Yeah, you can rotate in that view. There we go. We can rotate in this view, or that axis. I'm sorry. So these correspond to that. Where you come into some problems there is if you have multiple objects selected. You can see the coordinates are now going to disappear because they can only really keep track of one pivot. So once you get into this mode, now you're going to be pivoting these objects around a common pivot. And we're not going to get into pivots too heavily today either. I just pretty much want to cover object creation and edit and get into the viewport issues. So all right, now we kind of figured out how to do some simple manipulation and what sub-object is, and the big problem here is in controlling the view. So a lot of people come into some wonky issues of trying to use the view cube with nothing selected or with something selected, and it's really, even though it's working right now, I mean, I've really seen it not work well when after switched from one view to the next. It just seems to be working so well right now. It's not very well done. So let's just imagine this is everything's flying off view for me, and I'm having a hard time with it. Um, and things have flown off the view here, which this will happen to you, even though I can't get it to happen for me now. Um, you can move to those objects if you know where they're at by pressing on the middle mouse button or wheel, and that'll move the entire view space around. Now that's just moving like your camera, just kind of moving it around without panning or tilting or anything. So you're just moving things straight around in front of your camera, or you're moving the camera, not actually moving any objects. To zoom, you can use that middle mouse wheel, and if nothing's selected, it's gonna just zoom anywhere. Probably the last place you no, yeah, just the center of the view. Whatever's in the center of the viewport, that's what it zooms to. If you have something selected, what do you know? It doesn't even zoom then. You have to actually hit the zoom extents button down here at the bottom. And this says zoom extents all selected. And that's important because I have 3 objects here, and this one is the one that's selected. If I click the button, it's going to center that in the view for me. If I long press on this button, and I pick the white box area here, and no matter what's selected, it's going to zoom to keep everything to fit the view. So that's your zoom extents button. By default, it's on whatever's selected, and that's pretty much what I suggest to stay on. And the important thing of note here is that if you're in sub-object level, it will zoom to that, and it'll fit the center of that selection in your view. So whatever that selection is, it's going to center it so you can see it all. If you selected the entire box, and you're going to see it's going to just do the same thing as if nothing was selected. It's because everything is. So that's what that zoom extents button does. It's gonna take whatever you've selected and it's going to center it in your viewport. So another thing to know is when you're zooming, if you're in perspective mode, you can actually break the surface of your box, or you may have a hard time getting right to where you'd like to get and really get a close view on the vert before it just disappears on you. What's nice to know is if you just hit the U key, you're in orthographic mode, and we can zoom extent here, and we can zoom in and zoom in, and it just gets infinitely tinier and tinier, and we never break the surface of the model until we finally hit its end. So you get really close here, and this is really handy when you're working on some really detailed portion of the model. You can get way zoomed in there. Okay. Another important thing here would be to know that you can hit the zoom extents button, or you can hit the Z key. I'm not going to cover a lot of keyboard shortcuts. That'll come up in a different episode. Just thought I would show that one. I think we pretty much covered it all here. I just wanted to kind of go through what the differences here are on the creation and modification phase here, and how to move around in your viewports. So that takes us to right about 15 minutes. Any questions? Feel free to give me a private message, and I'll respond. Thanks a lot.